This screencast is going to review the parts of a long bone. As a reminder, with pretty much everything in anatomy, shape of the bones determines function. So structure determines function. So here is an overall view of a long bone. We're going to go through each of these parts one by one. As a reminder, long bones are longer than they are wide. It doesn't mean that you can't have small long bones. Your fingers, so your phalanges, your metacarpals and metatarsals in your hands and your feet, your toes, also phalanges, they're all long bones, even though they're very small long bones. So the first thing we'll talk about is articular cartilage. Articular cartilage is made up of hyaline cartilage, and it covers the ends of the bone. It's there to absorb shock and to help the bones glide. To articulate means to form a joint. So the articular cartilage is in all the places that we form a joint. So here we can see the end of our femur or our thigh bone, and you have articular cartilage here because this part of your femur is going to articulate or form a joint with the plateau of your tibia or your shin bone and the posterior side of your patella or your kneecap. So your patella is going to slide and glide nice and smoothly in this groove, and then your femur is going to glide nice and smoothly along the tibial plateau thanks to the articular cartilage. If the articular cartilage breaks down, that's where you have osteoarthritis. You could also have rheumatoid arthritis, which is caused by an autoimmune disease. But when we look at the general wear and tear throughout the lifetime of someone, we're talking about osteoarthritis that breaks down this cartilage through normal wear and tear as opposed to disease or disorder. Next, you have the epiphysis. The plural of epiphysis is epiphyses. You have one at each end of the bone, a proximal one closer to the trunk, and a distal one further from the trunk. So this is the end of your bone. Your epiphyseal plates are your growth plates. These are the weakest part of your bone because it's actually made of cartilage, not of hard calcified bone. So you can see here you have an epiphyseal plate. This is your femur, again, your thigh bone. Then you have another one here in your tibia, and you can see a little one there in your fibula as well. In children, these epiphyseal plates are wide open because they're still growing. Once you become an adult, you can see they're not there anymore. You can kind of see a little faint line here where the epiphyseal plate used to be, and we will talk about bone growth in another screencast. Next, we have the diaphysis. So we had the epiphyses were the ends of the bone. The diaphysis is the whole middle of the bone. So this is a hollow cylinder or shaft of the bone. It's made up of hard, compact bone. Because it's hard, it is supportive and it's strong. But because it's hollow, it's light enough for movement. The medullary canal, or the medullary cavity, runs through the center of the diaphysis. It's an opening that's filled with yellow marrow and contains many blood vessels. The yellow marrow stores fat and makes some of our white blood cells, though most of our blood cells are made by the red marrow, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Surrounding the medullary cavity, you have a membrane called the endosteum. It helps keep the medullary canal intact. You have another connective tissue on the outside of your bone called the periosteum. The periosteum is a tough fibrous tissue that surrounds the bone. It's necessary for growth, and we'll talk about that again in the growth and development screencast. It contains many blood vessels, lymph vessels, and nerves. We have two types of bone. Compact bone is going to form the superficial parts of the bone as well as the diaphysis or most of the diaphysis. Spongy bone is going to fill the insides, especially at the ends. A spongy bone is not soft and squishy and absorbent like a sponge, but it does have a similar structure in that it kind of has this open, corally lattice work of bone with lots of open spaces. Spongy bone is also called cancellous or trabecular bone because it's made up of trabeculae. So here we have another look at the two types of bone. We have our compact bone that goes around the outside here, and then all in here we have the spongy bone. And that is a brief overview of the macro structures, the macro anatomy of a long bone, the things that you can see with your eyes.